How do I get rid of a bad habit? First, you gotta know you've got the habit. The worst kind of prison's the kind you don't even know you're in. So elephants are born throughout the world, in many places chained to a stake in the ground, and they never roam more than 10 feet from that stake. Before the elephants are practically even kids, they can tear that stake out and snap it like a toothpick, but they don't. And they don't because they've habituated. They've built a habit. Now, assuming you're a step beyond that, and you know you've got a habit and you want to break that habit, got to be ready for a fight, because your brain is going to fight hard for that habit. See, your brain doesn't care if it's a good habit, if it's a bad habit. Your brain just knows it's a habit. And see, habits live deep down in the center of our brain, the spot called the basal ganglia. Now, what happens when the habits burrow themselves that deeply into our brain is people who've had neurological damage, like brain trauma, where they can't even remember what happened a day ago. They still hold on to their habits. Many people have had such severe trauma, they can't remember what happened 10 seconds ago. They can't remember their family's names, and they hold on to their habits, right? So what happens now is when you say, I'm just gonna kind of kick a habit, it doesn't work that way, right? When you decide you're gonna get rid of a habit, it's not like a little fight you're picking on a playground with someone, right? This is war. When you decide you're gonna kill a habit, you're killing a part of yourself in order to free up a new self, right? This is how change happens. This is how you become a different person. It's how you become a better person. So when they talk about transformation, right, this is what they're talking about, right? It's not like a little skirmish. This is war, right? This is biblical, epic proportions. This, by the way, is why I do what I do. This is real change. Now, if this is what you're going for, you've got to be ready for the fight. So if you're not ready for that, you're looking for the path of least resistance, you're looking for something simple, save yourself time, spare yourself all the anguish and the bullshit excuses, right? Just pack up and go home. If you do want to make change, I'm going to share with you a bit of an example. It's a radical example, but it really drives this point of how to break and change a habit. So about 2 years into this business where I was running Helm, this is about 4 years now back in history, I was sitting there about 2 a.m. with a colleague of mine, a guy named Chris. Very overweight, out of shape. He'd been in the hospital the week before. And I turned to him and I said, why are we doing this, right? For the last 2 years, I spent 125 hours a week, barely spent time with my family at all, no time with my friends, barely slept, went on about 2.5, 3 hours a night. I'd wake up and I'd have a full cup of espresso. My wife would say, honey, you're gonna have a heart attack, right? Not a healthy way to go through life. And I needed to change something. I knew that. In the next 5 minutes, I did something that I'm sure you'll agree is the only logical conclusion, one that you would draw in my shoes. For someone who's never swam or run or biked, I decided I was gonna do the Ironman. Now, the Ironman, if you don't know, is about 140 miles of swim, run, bike in one day. So I decided by doing that I was going to get to the gym every morning because I had to work out, of course. So specifically, I set my alarm for 4 a.m. every morning when the gym opened so I could be there for this rigorous workout. And to do that, so I didn't kill myself, I'd have to get sleep the night before, I set an alarm at night at 10 p.m. to make sure I was actually in bed on time. Then I'd do my workout when I woke up, and it would feel always awesome to get through it, pushing myself as hard as I could. Now that's kind of like the story that meets the eye, right? Surface level. Behind the surface, what was happening? Well, every habit is made up of 3 parts. So part 1 is the cue. Then you've got the routine, and then you've got the reward that comes afterward. For me, the routine had been work. That was all I knew for the first 2 years of my business. That was all I did, morning and night into the wee hours of the morning. Then what followed was that reward. And I knew I'd push myself as hard as I could with work. It felt good, right? I kind of needed that, or I thought I did, to know I'd push myself as hard as I could. Well, in changing my routine from work to working out, I was still able to get that same reward because my workout forced me to push myself as hard as I could. So I still got that. Now the cue, for me, it was my calendar, really. I mean, my calendar never had anything but work in it. And so that was the only thing I really let onto my calendar. But when I tweaked it and put that alarm in at 10 p.m. at night and the 4 a.m. in the morning to get to sleep and get to the gym, right, my cue changed. A little bit made a massive change in my life. See, ultimately, if you decide you're ready to kill some habit and replace it with something else, you've got to figure out what routine you want to break and what you're going to replace it with. Now, here's the thing, the reward that comes after, your body craves that reward. So you've got to find something that's going to give you that same reward. You might have to twist the dials and knobs a bit when it comes to that cue, but ultimately you've got to figure out a new routine that works for you. So if you're ready to do that, I invite you to that challenge. Feel free to message me and let me know what you're up to. Glad to share my perspective. And if you're interested in some of the ways my team and I help companies and leaders go through transformation, not just individually, but actually with their cultures and their organizations, please click on the link or feel free to come to helm.ceo. You'll know where to find us from there. I look forward to connecting with you then.